5a. This part's not as bad. So, okay. So we're trying to figure out our Mishnah. What are the cases of Shabbos, 2 that are 4? So we said that the 4 cases that we have in our Mishnah of Shabbos are going to be all, they're going to obligate you. 2 that are 4 that obligate you, not that exempt you. So Ella Amar of Papa. So 4 lines from the bottom, 4th the last word. I don't know. 5a and 3 to the 7. I don't know. Yeah, there, somewhere there.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen you getting 3 lines from the bottom.
Yeah. According to Gary, Gary's the authoritative figure where we are. So Elamar of Papa Hasam the Iker Shabbos 20 in the Tractate of Shabbos, it said 2 that are 4, 2 that are 4, because it was teaching you, it was talking about Shabbos. That was the main objective of that tractate. So therefore, it told you the ones that you're obligated in and the ones that you're exempt in. Our Mishnah, just for simplicity's sake, was listing the 2s that are 4s. So it didn't get involved in the ones that you're also exempt for. So it just taught the ones that you are obligated in. So it taught 2 cases of hotza'ah, bringing out from private to public, and 2 cases of hachnasa, bringing in from public to private. Yeah. Says the Gemara, what are the ones you're obligated in? Yitzias, the bringing out. Says the Gemara, well, bringing out only 2 cases. I take from inside and I place outside, or I'm standing outside and I take from inside and I place outside. That's only 2, not 4. Yitzias tartehu dehavyan. Says the Gemara, you're right. Shtaim de hotzah, the shtaim de hachnasa. 2 of putting out and 2 of bringing in. Says the Gemara, okay, but it doesn't say bringing in. It says Yitzias Shabbos Shtaim Shein Arba. Yitzia means to leave, to bring out. Right? In Israel, like here, it says exit. There it say Yitzia. Yitzia is to exit, to bring out. So you're telling me there's 2 that are 4 cases of bringing out, and now you're telling me that it's not true. Only 2 of those are bringing out, and 2 of those are bringing in. So why does it call it bringing out if it's talking about bringing in? So you'll say it's like classic Gemara language. Okay, but yeah. Tana hachnasanami hotza'a karila. You're right. Sometimes we can refer to bringing in as bringing out, meaning it wouldn't refer to necessarily as bringing out from private domain. It could be it's removing it from its place. You're bringing it out from its place. That's what I understood it. So if you're bringing it out from its place, so then that could be referring to either outside to inside or inside to outside. That language could also be fitting, even though you're bringing in, even though you're bringing something in from a public to a private domain, you could still call it hotzah. So mimai, how do I know that Mishnayos refers to bringing in by the language of taking out? Well, we have a Mishnah in Shabbos. It says hamotzi mirshus l'rishus. I remove from one domain to another domain chayiv. If I take from one domain into another domain, I'll be chayiv. So milo askinon, are we not talking about all cases? Whether you are the kama ayil iyule, the kakarle otzah. It says if you remove from one domain to another domain, sounds like as long as you go from one to another, you'll be obligated, whether it's going from private to public or whether it's going from public to private. And yet it says hamotzi, to take out, but it's said in such a general way that it's also referring to bringing in. So you see that same word hamotzi is not referring to your challah, but if the word hamotzi is referring to bringing in, so to our Mishnah can also say Yitzias Shabbos, the bringing out, and also be referring to cases that are bringing in. The Kakari Le Hotza. The Dilma, maybe you'll say, Kamafik Mishas Yachad Mishas Arabim. The Dilma, Kamafik, maybe you are bringing out from a Rishus Yachad to a Rishus Arabim. Who told you that Mishnah is referring to all cases? Maybe it's talking only about bringing out from private to public. In Cain, it should have said it more explicitly. Nisni, Hamotzi, It should say, I'm removing from a private to a public domain. What does it mean, rishus l'rishus? Domain to domain. It sounds like it chose its words very specifically to stay general, to refer to afilu mirshus harabim, to teach you that even from a public domain, l'rishus hayachid, and yet how does it call it? The kakari lehaitza, and yet it refers to it as bringing out. So you see already a precedent in another Mishnah in Shabbos that we have a general statement of rishus l'rishus, and yet it's referring to bringing in from a public to a private domain, and yet it refers to it as Haitzah. Now, the time am I? So I guess already I jumped in a little bit earlier, but why is it called Hotzah? You're not bringing out, you're bringing in. So what about it is bringing out? If you're going from a public domain to a private domain, in what way are you bringing something out? So, the time am I? Anytime you uproot object from its place, that's Hotzah Akarile. That's called bringing out. Bringing out could have two understandings: bringing out from a private domain, or bringing something out from its place. Yeah. When you have your routine, right? So, and you uprooted from your routine in some which way. You brought out, you left your routine. Now you're okay. So, Amar Ravina says Ravina Masnis in our Mishnah is also could be a support for this. Nami Dega Dekatoni, it says Yitzias Shabbos. Sorry, not our Mishnah, the Mishnah in the Mishnah Shabbos. Dega Dekatoni Yitzias Shabbos. It says the Yitzias of Shabbos, the bringing out, the cases of bringing out of Shabbos are Shtayim Shein Arba B'fnim, two that are four inside, the Shtayim Shein Arba B'chutz, and two that are four outside. Now, it's the same as our Mishnah. It's two that are four. So it's the same two guy, the guy inside is fully placing it out. The guy outside is fully removing it out. The guy inside is fully bringing it in. The guy outside is fully placing it in. It just adds over there the case that you're exempt for. If you do half the job, if you place it in the guy's hand and then he takes it to a public domain, or the other way. But what do you see? Two that are four, two that are four. Two of those cases are referring to bringing in from a public domain to a private domain, and yet it's called Yitzias Shabbos. It's called the removal of the objects, and it's for sure referring to a guy who's bringing in from a public domain to a private domain. So it says Yitzias Shabbos Shtayim Shein Arba B'fnim Shtayim Shein Arba B'chutz V'kamefaresh, and it goes there to explain what are one of the cases. It's called Hachnasa. It's called bringing in. Shma Mina, you can learn from there that even though the word Yitzia in its simplest meaning interpretation is to bring out from a private domain to a public domain, but we see in the Mishnah that it said Yitzia Shabbos, but and then it explained one of the cases as being bringing in from a public domain. So that's going to be like what you just said, that bringing out can mean removing from its place, not only removing from private to public, but even removal from its place. If it's removal from its place, that refers to even a public domain being brought into a private domain. Okay. I think Rav is going back now. Rav is going back. I think let's go back and forth about this, but I think to the first line of this Amud that said that brought the mission in Shabbos Hamotzi Merishus L'Rishus, this general language of bringing from one domain to another domain. Yeah. No, so a little bit differently. So Rav is going to say that which it says the word Yitzia in the Mishnayos, which we're now, the going assumption was referring to bringing something out, to which we brought a proof that even when you bring something in, you can refer to as bringing something out. Rav says that where it says Yitzia, it's really just referring to domains. Rav Amar Rishios Katani and Rishios Shabbos Shtayim. When it's talking about bringing something out, it's not necessarily referring to bringing out from a private to a public domain. It's just a way to refer to bringing out from domains. So it's just you're bringing out from domains. So there you don't have necessarily a proof that you refer to bringing in as taking something out, because the Yitzias, he understands those Mishnayos, they're just referring to general domains. You're bringing something out from its domain, but not that you're bringing something out from. It's going to be the same thing from inside to outside, outside to inside, but you lose the textual support that bringing something out from a private to public domain. That word can also be used to refer to bringing something in from a public to a private domain. I think that's what he's saying. Come back, brother, about this. Yeah, that's all he's saying. That there's no proof from the Mishnayos, right? Or is he talking about a totally different point?
He doesn't really say that.
Yeah.
I think he's just saying domain to domain.
Right. He just, meaning we had a problem. Our problem was that our original problem was that even though our mission says two that are four, and it's referring to removals, but two of the cases are bringing in. So to that, Rav is just saying that the word Yitzias is just bringing out of domains. So we're not getting so nitty gritty and bringing out from private to public, public to private. It just means Yitzias Rishuyas Katani. It just means the general bringing out of domains. Yeah. Okay. Here you got to put your charts on. Okay. So not such a hard chart, but just Maros Negayim Shnayim Shem Arba. So there are two that are four, right? Of the colors and the shades of white. Now, before we get to Rabbi Akiva, so the way the Mishnah understands it is there's two primary categories. That's called a Beheris and a Se'es. Now, there's different shades of white. So Beheris is snow white. Yeah. Bring back childhood memories. Yeah. So that's Beheris. So you didn't have that in South Africa, so you don't know what we're talking about. But okay. So Snow White, yeah. So that's Beheris. That's snow. So then you have another primary category is Se'es. That's like the white membrane of an egg. Now, the derivative of the secondary shade of white under snow is called Kisid HaHeichal. Every year they used to replaster the walls of the Heichal in the base of Mikdash. So that's a certain color of white. And the derivative of the other primary category is called Tzemer Lavan. It's going to be the white wool white. That it's going to be like now. The problem is not the problem, but the problem is that their order of whiteness. So it goes like 1 and 3 and 4 and 2, meaning the two primary categories are from the most white is sheleg, is snow, to the least white is se'es. Those two are the primary categories, and then 3 and 2 are under them. Now, why do we care what's a primary category, what's not a primary category? The minimal measurement of tzaras is a gris, like a little bean's worth. Now, what happens if you, instead of having, if it's one shade of white, then you're good to go. Then you have tzaras. What happens if you have half of that measurement is one shade, and half of the measurement is another shade? Do those combine to make you impure? Well, if you're an Av, if you're a primary category, so you and your derivative go together. So 1 and 3 will go together. It's an Av and a Tolda. So if those two are together, they'll combine. 4 and 2, that primary category and its derivative will go together. The two derivatives, though, they can't go together. So for our purposes, the white membrane color and the white wool color, 2 and 3, they can't combine. So if those two equal this little measurement, that is not going to be enough to render you tummy. Okay. So, Maros Negayim Shnayim Shein Arba. So, Tanan Hosam, it says in the Mishnah, Maros Negayim Shnayim Shein Arba. Two primary categories, the ones that are explicit in the Torah, and two more secondary categories that are learned out through exposition. So, Beheres is one shade, and that is Oza Kishelig. It's like strong like white. It's very, very white. It's the whitest of the colors. Shni Allah, its secondary category is Kisid HaHeichel. It is like the plaster of the Heichel. That's it, and it's secondary category. It's derivative. Se'es is the next primary category. That's like Snow White. Kitsemer Lavan. Shni Allah, its secondary category is Kikron Beitza, like the white membrane right between the egg and its shell. Okay, so those are two that are four. Fine. That part, so far we got. But now, Rabbi Chanina, Man Tana Maros Negayim, this opinion that held Maros Negayim is Delok Rabbi Akiva. It's not like the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Akiva is going to go on for today and maybe a little bit tomorrow. So, once again, the categories are 1 and 3 and 4 and 2. That is the primary and the derivative. Rabbi Akiva is going to hold that they go in order, and only there's a certain order to it, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you can only combine to the one that's closest to you. So 1 and 2 can combine, 2 and 3 can combine, 3 and 4 can combine. But 1 and 3, like our Mishnah says, can combine because 1 is snow and 3 is plaster, but it's a primary and a derivative. And the Mishnah holds if you're a primary and a derivative, you can combine. Rabbi Akiva holds, but the problem is that's 1 and 3. They're not next to each other in their shades of white. If they're not next to each other in their shades of white, they cannot combine. So our Mishnah that lists it like this cannot be Rabbi Akiva because he has order 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's it. And his order is going to be Beheres, white, Se'es is going to be Se'es, 3 is going to be the plaster, and 4 is going to be the membrane. So 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, but there's no jumping. So, okay. So now that's going to tell you that's not like Rabbi Akiva. The Rabbi Akiva, if it would be Rabbi Akiva, well, Kaven the Amar Zulam Alamizu, Zulam Alamizu, in Cain, if you're going to tell me like Rabbi Akiva, Kaven the Amar Zulam Alamizu, he has a certain order to it. In Cain, Tiharta Sid Heichal, then you purified, so to speak, this color of the plaster. Why? Because it's number 3 on the list. And according to our Mishnah, number 3 combines with number 1 because that's its primary category. But according to Rabbi Akiva, who should number 3 combine with? Let's go through the options. Man litzarfe. Litzarfe behade beheres. You want to say like our Mishnah that it combines with its primary category called beheres? It can't be. Why? Ika se'es da'adifa minei. I Rabbi Akiva hold that se'es is number 2. So this plaster can only combine with number 2. It can't combine with number 1 because it's a number 3. Number 3 only combines with number 2. So it cannot combine with the beheres like our Mishnah. So you're out. So litzarfe behade se'es, to combine with the other color of litzarfe behade se'es, to combine with actual se'es, which would be the one above it, but according to you, Mishnah, that's not its primary category. Its primary category is only a beheres. So 3 and 1 are one set, but 3 can't jump to 4, even though, according to Rabbi Akiva it could, but according to our Mishnah, only a primary category and its derivative can combine. But a derivative of 1 cannot combine with a primary category of somebody else. So that's not going to work either. So litzar behade se'es la'aptol b'didehu. So now we're stuck. So we're picking on number 3, and we're telling you that according to Rabbi Akiva, if the Mishnah would be like Rabbi Akiva, it has nowhere to go because its primary category is 2 above it. According to Rabbi Akiva, that doesn't work. And according to our Mishnah, it can't combine with another primary category. So that's not going to work. So now we're going to say, well, if that's true, why are you picking on the plaster case? What about krum beitza, the membrane of the egg? For Rabbi Akiva, that is number 4. It's the lowest. It's the darkest of the shades of white. So now, according to our Mishnah, so it should be also stuck. because who should it combine with? It's number 4. Now, now, so says the Gemara, who should it combine with? Letzarfe behade se'es. You want it to combine with se'es, which our Mishnah holds is the primary category. But ikasid the others. Mina. The problem is that sid, the plaster, is the one that's closest to it. Membrane is 4, plaster's 3. So it can't jump to 2. 4 and 2 can't jump. And right, and yet in our Mishnah, 4 and 2 go together. So yeah, you can say the other minute. Litzave behade sid. Now you wanted to combine with sid. Maybe you'll say it should combine with the other derivative of the first category, lav bar minehu. It's not its category. It can't jump to a different category. So now, so says the Gemara, hayimai. So it says like this. Rabbi Akiva doesn't have a sort of exception to the rule because the Torah adds it like this. And we'll explain in a second. Bishlama below sid heichal, krum beitza lo kasha. You're right. There's really 2 problems in our Mishnah according to Rabbi Akiva. That 3, the plaster, has nowhere to go. It can't combine to 1, and it can't combine to 4, because 4 is another category. 1 is 2 above it. That's not going to work. And you're right. Krum beitza is also it's number 4. Who should it combine with? According to the Mishnah, it's in 1 category, but it's 2 above it. So that's not going to work either. So the Gemara says you're right, except below sid heichal krum beitza lo kasha. Why? The afal gav, the krum beitza, even though the white membrane is mitatoy the se'es, it's 2 below se'es, right? So that's 2 below it, and it should not combine. The difference is Rachmana Amar. The Torah says v'la se'es v'la sapachas. It adds the word sapachas. It's secondary one. Just that se'es has secondary one, meaning se'es is going to combine with others. So sapachas tefel l'se'es afal gav the minchata minei tuva. So even though that that se'es is according to Rabbi Akiva number 2, and the egg membrane is number 4, but the Torah said that number 2 se'es is going to have derivatives. So se'es is going to be able to include 2 things. It's number 2. So number 3, it's going to be able to include, because that's one that's closest to it. That, and then the Torah comes and adds that there's even another one that's going to be its derivative, even though it's much lower than it. That's going to be number 4. So basically, when all the dust settles, according to Rabbi Akiva, the heres, which is the white snow, stands on its own. It's number 1, it's on its own. Se'es for Rabbi Akiva's number 2 is going to be able to, is also on its own. It's its own primary category. And it has 2 derivatives. 1, which is closest to it in its number, so 2 and 3. But also 4, which is, even though it's 2 under, but the Torah says that it's going to have a derivative, even though it's going to be much, much darker than it. So it's another form of white.
Is it the plaster that you're saying? Is that
yeah, exactly. We're including the plaster. Ella sid heichal kasha. Sorry, it's the membrane. It's the membrane. Yeah. Ella sid heichal, but that plaster case, kasha, that Rabbi Akiva can't agree to our Mishnah because it's number 3. It has nowhere to go. According to our Mishnah, it combines with number 1. According to Rabbi Akiva, number 1 has nothing that it combines with, except for number 2. But it can't combine with number 3. So sid heichal kasha, ella mechaver tamasis lo Rabbi Akiva. So rather, we go back and we say that our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Akiva. Okay. Now, on this that we assume that we just stated that Rabbi Akiva holds, there's an order 1, 2, 3, 4, and the rule is only the one that it's nearest to it could combine with, except for 2 and 4, because that's an exception. But the other ones are not exceptions. So now we're going to ask, where did you find Rabbi Akiva ever stated such an order? Now, truth be told, we're not going to find necessarily him saying it exactly, but from the context, we'll be able to figure it out, hopefully, or not. So, Ilema Mahadataini, maybe from the following Bryce, Rabbi Yossi says, Shal Rabbi Yeshua Beno, Rabbi Yeshua's son of Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Akiva. He asked Rabbi Akiva, why does our Mishnah state that the Negayim, the Tzaras, is 2 that are 4? So Rabbi Akiva told back to his son, Amar Lo, V'im Lav Mayomru. Well, what do you want to say? What's wrong with 2 that are 4? So his son told him back, Yomru Mikrum Beitz Olamala. Just say anything from the 4th category, the lowest shade, the darkest shade of white of the egg membrane, and up will be Tzaras. And that's it. Why don't you say that? So Yomru Mikrum Beitz Olamala Tameh, right? That'll make our life much easier. So Rashi really explains because the Mishnah is supposed to be taught in a shorter language. The Rebbe is supposed to teach his students the Lashon Kitzur in a short language. So if you can just say it like this, so then it'll be much easier. So So Amar Lo, Rabbi Akiva told back to him, no, Lomar Shemetz Tarsim Zaim Zeh. No, because you have to teach me those 4 to teach you that they can combine with one another. So, okay, says the son back to Rabbi Akiva, Amar Lo Vayomru Mikram Beitzul Lamala Tamid Umin Tarsim Zaim Zeh. So just say from Krum Beitz to the 4th category, the darker shade of white, the membrane, and up is Tameh, and they can combine with one another. Just say it like that. What's 2 that are 4? Why did it speak 2 that are 4? Just say it like this. So Amar Lo, to teach you the following: Lomar Lach, Kol Kohen she'eno baki bahen ubishmo sehen eino roas anegayim. That Mishnah in the Mishnah Negayim that spells them all out. It spells them all out to teach you that a Kohen who doesn't know the Tzaras, he has to be an expert in the Tzaras itself and in their names. If he doesn't know those, then he can't be the one to answer to make somebody pure or impure. Only a Kohen can make somebody pure or impure. Nobody else. Even if you're the biggest medical expert in Tzaras, it's irrelevant. So much so that the Gemara, other place seems to imply that even if a Kohen is not that knowledgeable and someone else is knowledgeable, he has to tell the Kohen has to declare the guy Tameh. Until he's Tameh, and until the Kohen says the words, he's not considered impure.
So that other guy has to teach the Kohen.
Maybe, yeah. It seems to be Tosis has a question. Tosis asks this question because our Gemara sounds like you have to be an expert in it and in its names. There's a Gemara somewhere else that seems to contradict that a little bit. So how do you reconcile those 2 is a good question. But yeah, so now hold on. Okay, so that's their conversation. Now, which one did we say should be from? It should be taught the 4th one, Krum Beitza Ulamala. Rabbi Akiva's son suggested that the 4th shade of white, the darkest one, that should be how the Mishnah should have been taught. It said, the ilu mi sid heichal ulamala lo kamar. It didn't say from category number 3. It said from category number 4. Now, why did it do that? Midalo amarle shmamina dishmiya Rabbi Akiva the amar kulu lebahadis ace mitzdarfen. So, if it would have taught, it could have taught one of 2 options. Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Akiva's son, could have said you could have taught the Mishnah sid heichal ulamala. If you would have taught sid heichal, the plaster and above can combine, then you would exclude some cases. It would only be certain cases can combine together. But the fact that you started with the bottom, the darkest shade, and you suggested that those should combine together, that implies that you understood, that your father understood that there's an order to things. 4, 3, 2, 1. And that's why you suggested just teach it. The 4th one and up is going to be Tameh. So Shmamina, the Shmiele, the Rabbi Akiva, we don't have Rabbi Akiva, the Amri, the Kulhu Lebahade Se'es Mitzdarfen, they all can combine to Se'es. Right. So sorry. So Rashi says one thing that right. It didn't say both, meaning it didn't say only krum beitza, the membrane, the egg membrane combines, and sid heichal, the plaster can also combine to the one above it. It didn't limit it to only those categories, like the Mishnah does. So really, so from there you see that that there's going to be an order, and right. It doesn't say that. Therefore, from there you see Shmamina that they all can combine to a se'es. Even the egg membrane can combine to a se'es, and the plaster could combine to a se'es, and se'es could combine to the Harris. Why? Because basically, according to the way Rabbi Yeshua suggested to Rabbi Akiva, the egg membrane and above, they all can combine together. Now, it doesn't mean they all can combine together. It means that this egg membrane can combine to a se'es, because, well, now we know because the Torah added it. It also can combine to number 3 because it's next to it in order. And number 3 and number 2 can combine because they're next to each other in order. And then number 2, number 1 can combine together. So if you would have taught it like that, which was suggested, then you would have understood it this order.
They're combined and they're alluded to by the term sepacha together.
Mm-hmm.
That incorporate, sounds like it says here that they incorporate, that sepacha incorporates both of the shades. Right.
Correct. Yeah. So, okay. So now the Gemara says, running out of time. Okay. So now the Gemara says that the Dilma se'es v'toldasa and Baharis v'toldasa. Maybe he only quoted half of the statement of Rabbi Yeshua. Maybe he really did suggest more than what you said over. Maybe he really did suggest that se'es and its tolda and Baharis and its tolda. Maybe that was really his suggestion. So Charles and Gary logged off. Okay, the Dilma. So Shmamina, the Shmila, the Rabbi Kiva. So the fact that it was suggested in this order is that was a bad one. Okay, the suggested in this order was to teach you that according to Rabbi Kiva, there's a certain order that the one will combine to the one next to it. And the fact that it wasn't suggested to be taught in a different order, like our Mishnah teaches it. So therefore, we're going to learn that it's going to be. You see, the Rabbi Kiva doesn't hold of our Mishnah. To that we said, well, Dilma se'es v'toldasa, Baharis v'toldasa. Really, maybe he actually mentioned more to Rabbi Akiva, and he also mentioned that really krumul umala, the egg membrane, should combine with the one above it, and it's just this Rabbi Yossi, who's teaching this to us, didn't mention that part. But really, Rabbi Yeshua, so the fact that Rabbi Yeshua suggests to Rabbi Akiva, it sounds like isn't so authoritative, because maybe he really did tell him more than that. Yeah, meaning the really maybe we do know from Rabbi Akiva more than what Rabbi Shua seemed to suggest to him, but the Tana, the author of the Brisa, didn't go out of its way to mention all the cases. It just mentioned those cases, mikrum beitza ulamala, and really it was also referring to another case and the one above it. It just failed to mention it because it didn't want to list all the cases. So if that's true, then we don't have a source anymore for Rabbi Akiva. Elam Rabbi Chanina, Rabbi Chanina, Mashal Rabbi Akiva, Lamad Davardoma. So let's look at Rabbi Chanina's parable for Rabbi Akiva's listing of the Taras. From Rabbi Chanina's parable, we will learn that Rabbi Akiva really holds to this order. What was Rabbi Chanina's parable to explain Rabbi Akiva? Mashal Rabbi Akiva, Lamad Davardoma, La'arba koso shel chala. Imagine you had 4 cups of milk. Echad into one of the cups, nafal tocha shtei tipin shel dam. Yeah, who knows? The kid starts bleeding. right next to the by breakfast, by the bowls of milk, and 2 little drops of blood fell into 1 cup. This is like a magic trick, yeah. Another cup fell into 4 drops of blood. And a third cup was 8 drops of blood. And a 4th cup was 12 drops of blood. Now, some say it was really 16 drops of blood. Okay, so now you have a whole cup of milk and a little bit of blood, so it's still white, right? Shekulan maros lobenheim. They're all shades of white. Obviously, one's going to be darker than the other. The one that has more blood is going to be a darker white. One that has less blood is going to be a lighter white. Ella shizel malamizeh. One is a little darker than the one before, and the one before, the one before. So, v'zeh malamizeh. So the way Rabbi Chanina described the parable for Rabbi Akiva shows us that Rabbi Akiva learns Taras the same way. You have 4 shades of white. One of them is a little darker than the next, a little darker than the next, a little darker than the next. And therefore they're only and because he has it in that order, they can only combine to the one that's next to it. Says the Gemara, oh, hold on. That might be true when you have 2 things mixed together. You have milk and blood, and you'll have Taras mixed with something else. But pure white, who says that mushal, that parable is true for pure white? That's only true by pure white. That's only true by a mixed group where you have white and red. There you have this order of a little darker, a little darker, a little darker, a little darker. But do you see from there that in 4 pure whites, you also have that kind of order of 1, 2, 3, 4? You don't see that. Only when they're mixed, you see that. Okay, well, maybe you'll say, well, what's the difference? Rabbi Chanina thought it applies across the board, whether it's mixed, whether it's not mixed. So, the same way you have the order by milk that has little drops of blood, you understand it's going in a descending or ascending order, depending on what you're looking at. It's going in darker. It's going in increasing in darkness. So too, by pure white, it does the same thing. It increases in darkness one after another. So maybe you'll say that. Says the Gemara, hold on. Where do you know that Rabbi Akiva agrees that when you have white and something else, the same way of your parable of milk and something else, that it's going to work in such an order? The pasuk gufe mishamisle. Where did you find Rabbi Akiva saying this by white tzaras mixed with a little bit of red, that he has that same ascending order? So the Hatanya, the Mishnah, really it's a Brisa. It says Brisa, really it's a Mishnah. In Negayim, Rabbi Akiva Omer, Adamdam shebezeh v'shebezeh ki yayin hamazug b'mayim. When you have a little bit of redness in the white tzaras, it's like diluted water. And okay. Okay, and therefore what? And therefore, so that Mishnah is talking about the first 2 cases, the first two shades of white. To that, Rabbi Akiva responds, if there's red in them, in the first 2 shades of white, so then it's going to be like the milk in the blood. Then it's going to matter. It's a little bit lighter. It's a little bit darker.
Rabbi Ishmael is milk and blood, and Rabbi Akiva is wine and blood. And with Rabbi Akiva, the mixture is not very strong, the redness.
Right. So when you have this redness in the first 2 groups of taras, that's a sign that so then the parable is going to be similar, but it's not going to be considered not red, not white. It's going to be like some kind of diluted diluted wine. Okay, maybe this time we'll stop here.